Hey everybody, it's Matt Powers. Welcome to our first live, week 1 of the Advanced Permaculture Student Online. So it looks like it's about to rain outside. I'm outside Seattle. We are the rainy area of America, so it's not surprising. So we're inside today, and I'm talking to you from the comfort of the studio. Are we all getting in? 15 of you are here. Thank you so much. You're on time. Awesome. Sweet. 17. All right. So people are coming in. I'm going to click on the chat here. Feel free to enter the chat where you are in the world. Like I'm in Seattle, Washington. There I am up there. So feel free to add to the conversation. If you have live questions, you can submit them right there. And on top of that, I do have your answers right here. So I actually can go like this and put it all on one screen so I can see everything all at once. There we go. All right, cool. So yeah, if you've got live questions, you can ask live questions. I'm pretty sure we can even host a live question that you have. Like you can ask it, like you could pop on your screen and you could come talk to us right now. So this is a way that we can be really collaborative, that we can really dive deep into questions, and it's not just a one-to-one point answer. So it's like, I have a question, here's your answer, and that's the end of it. It can be a conversation and a dialogue that that develops. So feel free. This is 20 viewers now. Awesome. So I'm answering questions today that are from the survey that got sent out yesterday. From now on, it will be sent out Wednesday nights. So you get plenty of time before Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So that's the plan with that. But I've got almost 100 people who have filled out the survey so far. And obviously, many of you have taken a PDC before. Many of you are actually PDC teachers in this advanced course. Some of you have never taken a PDC before, and this is all new information. But many of you, I'm coming at it maybe from different angles and different, adding different examples in. But you understand earth care. You've heard the concept of people care before, and maybe not the micro macro thing I was doing with all the different modalities, but yeah. So for some people it's review with new angles, and some people it's all new information. So the questions are going to range in that space, and as we move forward, what's going to happen is we're going to catch up to those people, especially in the soil section, which is coming up quick. Everyone's going to be on the even playing field in a lot of sections. So even if you feel like, oh, I've taken a PDC, oh, I've done this, oh, I've done that, there's a lot of more information out there. There's a lot of information not in any of the books. And you hear it from when they talk about it, and then you see it when they talk about it all lined up, and you're like, did he just say the answer to his thing that he didn't tell us? Yes. Yes. We have so many insights from experts that like you get this layering effect, and then you start seeing things that you did not see before, and that they weren't necessarily trying to teach you. They might not necessarily even understand or know, but it's because you have the principles so well locked in from this situation that we're learning in right now. This organization of information that I have. Because I mean, it's just really an organization of information. This what I've done is I've made it more understandable and also scalable. So I've connected to higher learning as I've connected to a lower reading level at the same time. Anyway, I always think about these things as a teacher, and then I'm bringing the complexity. And so a lot of people are like, oh wow, this seems so complex. It was like amazing, And I'm going to keep doing that because I want to push your comfort zone. And it's gonna keep happening throughout the course. We're gonna push our comfort zones, and we're gonna talk about this. And we're like, all right, well, my next step is this. I'm not there yet, but I want to go here. So I know I need this skill. I'm not good at it yet. I don't know how to do it yet. But I know if I do this and I measure how I do it, and then I compare it to these masters and their guidelines, then I will improve over time, and then I will master it, and then that'll be another thing, and then you know what I mean? If we take that kind of attitude, we absolutely can. There's nothing to hold us back. I mean, this is not like you need to be a certain height to be good at the luge. This is not like physical sports. You know, this is, anyone can do this. There's niches that aren't even, there's so many neglected niches in the world of the regenerative world. So that's what I'm trying to do. And it really is giving you all these different examples and principles and lenses so that, and I'm really trying to step back and provide this spectrum so that you can use them all as lenses and you can be wise. And so what's going to happen is the more you grow your comfort zone, the wiser choices you'll make. And then the more analytical and critical we get with these skills as we improve, the more options and complexity I give you, the more you're going to consider, reflect on these things as you do them. And then that's going to help you much more later on when you're actually trying to problem solve in situ. You know what I mean? Because it goes the ethics, the principles, the patterns, and then problem solving. So it all stacks in layers upon each other. Like I said, the evaluative, you know, alignment. And the analysis paralysis that gets bandied around a lot. Everyone's like, oh, you're suffering from analysis paralysis. You know, that is an indicator. That's a strong indicator that you haven't gotten to the point where you feel comfortable. And that's a good indicator. That means you need more study, practice, experimentation. You need more deliberate practice, measuring things over time, comparing them to the masters and the ideal. And that's okay. That's like, you know what I've discovered, and this is the truth, is that when you find something you don't like, that means there's something better inside you, and it's your responsibility to pull it out. And so when you find something, you're like, oh man, you know, that could be so much better. And it's like, well, how? It's like, well, you demonstrate that with how you react to it. Are you just going to be like, meh? Or are you going to be like, and show what could be? So that's really where I'm at. I really want a holistic clarity, and that's what's lacking when we have analysis paralysis. There's a holistic clarity that's missing, so they can't act in a holistic way. They can make small efforts. They can do a garden, the edges and margins, but then when it's life, when it's, you know, their business, their lifestyle, their neighbors, their family, you know, all the different things, the wilderness, you know, we got to be able to go everywhere and be comfortable everywhere. And that takes practice, experience, study, understanding the principles really fluently so that you can apply these things improvisationally, fluently, you know, and in that way, we will navigate as individuals. Because, I mean, really, we can't just keep turning to individuals and be like, tell me what the answer is. And it's like, we got to gather all the information and share it with everyone. And we got to stop having these silos of information where they're like, oh, that answer. Hold on. How much are you going to pay? Oh, okay. You know, we have to enable people, and that's the informational economy, right? You go to graduate school and then they finally tell you how the brain actually works. And I'm telling kids in high school about this. And so what we need to do is we need to give them skills. We need to not just give information. We need to give people the real, they're like, oh, this is going to light your world on fire. This is going to change everything for you. What you're purchasing here, what you're, you know, experiencing, learning, or whatever service you offer, you want it to ignite and change their world. You don't want it to just be this information exchange. And so that holistic clarity really goes into that, because, you know, that application part, like we talked about, right? If you don't apply it, if it's just comprehension and identification, like what it is and what is it, you know what I mean? It doesn't go far enough. And so that's why I'm doing all this. That's why I bring the complexity. That's why I bring all those teaching standards in there. And that's what everyone in this course is included in the Regenerative Entrepreneurs and Educators course, because I want them to have all the skills that I have. I don't want to hold anything back. And because the thing is, if you have these skills, you don't really, you can keep teaching yourself, you can keep learning and growing, and you can keep skilling up. And then when you apply these skills to anything you're taking, like if you take all these skills and you apply it to Elaine's course or Peter McCoy's courses, you're just going to be like, and it's going to be like a higher level of learning for you. And that was really what it was for me at the beginning of permaculture. Was I finally understood that there was this organized framework that underpinned the entire world. And that's, you know, someone this week in the comments was like, wow, that was like, put me in a trance because it was so like big and interesting and fascinating. And the reality is that that's what it is. It's this big holistic system that is so fascinating. And we need to really dive into all the different aspects of it to really learn the symphony and find our part. So that's why we start so big. That's why, you know, I'm injecting all this teacher stuff and psychology and stuff into it, because I want you to have all those pieces. A student wrote me today about how to deal with their local community government. And usually, I mean, this is like the stock answer is like you form a permaculture group, you get a lot of people in there, and then you form community influence, and then you invite the politician and they see your influence. But the reality is that we need to be more proactive than that. We need to have more skills than just hoping that that happens naturally. We need to be able to reach out. We need to be able to communicate our ideas clearly, use the science, reach people in the modality that they're speaking in, and make it so that they understand the benefits that are mutual. You know, it's not just a you thing or me thing. It's an us thing. So that's really the idea behind that, because change is both social and a landscape profile issue. We have to do it all. And so that's why I include all that. Yeah, I really enjoyed the comments this week. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read some of the comments that your classmates have written, but they're amazing, and a lot of them are incredibly insightful. I see a quarter of the class has responded to the introduce yourself post. I added that because a student asked me. They said, you know, I don't do Facebook. Actually, 25% of the class doesn't do Facebook, and that's okay. And so that's why I'm trying to figure out how to make it as much interaction here off Facebook as possible, so you guys can get the value and include all your classmates. So yeah, there's like 100 people who have responded. There's 300 more that could respond. So please feel free to start adding your name into there and communicating if you haven't seen that already. And then there is a couple things. There is one video, and I have it saved. I'm about to go and fix it. And that they said the volume was low. Anytime there's anything technical like that, just let me know. I do everything. I write and record all the music. I edit and record all the video. I'm my own videographer. I handle all the everything. I mean, like I handle the administration. I handle the website design. I handle the graphic design. I do everything. So if you have any questions, and if you find anything like I am, I'm finding like typos like every 6 pages, but little typos. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna fix this, you know. But that's what happens when you read it aloud for like, you know, the 13th time. But yeah, reach out to me, because I can fix all of those things, and I can just keep going. I mean, like that's the thing about editing yourself in these videos. I don't know any other teachers that have ever had to do everything themselves. And you're like, whoa, Matt. No, there's a really powerful thing here. Why does the best quarterbacks, and I'm not an NFL or football person, but the best quarterbacks are watching the most footage of themselves after the game, because they're editing themselves. And so I don't know if other people are doing this, and maybe that's why I edit myself so much when I talk. I'm like, oh, but wait, you know what I mean? Caveat, right? Salt shaker. I am always doing that because, I mean, like that's the natural progression, is we're always going to be editing. Anyway, I'm always editing and always trying to improve things. That's why you guys have the second edition of the Permaculture Student 2. I actually got contacted by someone on the inside in the quote, enemy camp. This is actually kind of interesting. Social permaculture at work. Someone who's an engineer has been working for decades at the world's largest oil company. Loves my book and was like, Matt, you gotta include this or they're gonna be like, poke a hole, poke a hole. It's like, you can't just talk about this without this. And when you talk about this, don't use that word because that could mean this if you're an engineer. And he went over engineering language with me and he gave me MIT textbooks. They were hard. And we just kind of stepped into the complexity together. And this is his way of being able to start to inoculate his setting. So he's been there and now it's changed, right? But he's realizing if he just quit, if he just stepped away, wouldn't change anything. But instead he's having this conversation. So yeah, social permaculture, inoculation, not shutting people off, right? Seeing people as potential friends, not as, you know, our enemies, you know, our enemy camps. And I mean, at first I was like, what? And I like but I did the research. I gave them the opportunity to convince me. I gave them the opportunity to prove, you know, that this is something that is being taught in engineering schools and is being taught at MIT. And you know, there's 7 different references and official textbooks that I could just cite, and, you know, that kind of thing. And so it just brought up this whole other angle and edge to all my different engineering stuff that was in there. Like if you have the earlier version of my textbook, you'll notice that this version has efficiencies. So you see that a Tromp has 82% efficiency, and you see that a Pelton wheel has 77% efficiency. And to an engineer, that's the #1 thing they want to see. And they want to see where it's coming from. Now, who said that? Where's the working model? I want to see the commercial grade. Show it to me. And I was able to. And so that's the thing. That's the power of revision. And so that's why I always do that. That's why I'm always willing to revise things. So if you find something, if you're like, Matt, the volume on this is kind of low, I'm on it. Tell me, and I'll have it fixed that day. And that goes like 6 months down the road. That goes tomorrow. That goes tonight. I'm willing to fix everything because the reality is every time I do that, I get better. Every time you point it out, you're working on your pointing skills. You're going, oh, I noticed this pattern is off, and that's good. That's really good. So if you guys notice things, ask questions, reach out. I'm not afraid of growth. The only way to grow is by making mistakes and recognizing them, reflecting on what you can do better and doing better. Right? Right? So 33 of you now. All right, cool. So I think I'm going to get into your questions now. Unless you guys have any questions that you have burning in your minds right now that you want to add to the chat. You guys can use the chat, right? Can you guys let me know that you can, you're hearing me and that the chat is, that you're able to use the chat? I'm going to check right now. And, well, can you guys use the chat? Do you guys see the chat? The chat button up top, I clicked it and it opened up for me. So maybe you need to do that too. But yeah, I want to make sure you guys are seeing me. So I'm just going to pop over here to the course and look at the comments under our week 1. It's just that easy. Isn't that weird? You can just pop right over. I'm going to preview it. Yeah, it's just that easy. I can just pop right over. And so are we chatting from here? Where? I think you can just click on the play. Yeah, okay. We almost did like the traveling through time thing. Don't want to do that. No mirrors forever. So yes, I can see myself and turn it on, but we're not going to create a feedback loop of insanity right now. I'm going to post here for Anthony. Anthony, please. Okay. All right. So maybe you guys can't comment. Please comment here. And I will answer. All right, so I'm gonna. I commented there, and yeah, there's no other questions there. So I'm gonna come back here, and I'm gonna start answering your questions that you guys sent me in. All right, so I'll check back over there to see if you guys left any comments over there. I'll refresh the page. And in the meantime, I'm going to start going over. You can go to the YouTube to chat. Yeah. All right. So I wonder if the YouTube is going to show up here or over there. That is fascinating. So all right, I'm going to click on it. So I wonder. Okay. So I'm looking now. No, there's no chat over there. So let's just stick with that. Just chat on the actual website. Troubleshooting, forgive me for taking the time to do this. I just want to make sure in the future that we don't have to have any complications. So I streamline it. All right. So how can you find out what patterns are the best for your plot of land? Well, the number one thing to do is to actually look at what the shape of your landscape is. And we're going to be going over with keyline geometry. We're going to be over keyline design. That the process of Yeoman's process of analyzing landscape, and then the Yeoman scale of permanence, the Gregorian scale of permanence, and all the understanding of keyline will reveal the actual landscape to us. And within the landscape, you will see all the patterns that need to be implicit. So I know that it sounds like I'm saying that there's not much wiggle room. There's totally a lot of wiggle room, but it's the landscape and the climate that have the least wiggle room. So understand that the keyline literally tells you where things go. It gives you the answers like that. And you could put it other places in your land, but then you're dealing with stressors of energy and different things coming onto the site, onto where that is. And the ideal site would be where it was already indicated. So when we go through this, you're going to see that the patterns idea, and when I did the Permaculture Student Online, the first one, I really didn't spend much time in patterns because I didn't find that discussion very useful. I grew up as an artist and a musician. I understand pattern literacy extremely well, or at least I did in my mind. And at that point, and so I was like, I don't need this, blah. And I kept going, and I thought it was cool, it was fun, but it was just like watching the Nature Channel. And then when I understood schema, and then I started understanding peak performance, it fundamentally changed for me on patterns. And so once you see the patterns that are already there that would create the most powerful effects, then you know what you're going to do. So that's what I would say as far as patterns. So I would go, these things are setting the stage, right? There are layers in the sediment of thought and consideration and reflection. And so we're building those layers up to plant our ideas in and then have them grow healthily. So right now we're sheet mulching, we're creating the soil layer that we're going to be growing in. So be careful. A lot of people get caught up, like someone asked you how to use spirals the most efficiently. And it's like, do I want to set up a system that's just a big spiral? And the thing is, how are you going to get to the center of that spiral? Like, think about the steps. Yes, it's a long way for water to travel, but it's a long way for you to walk. So the whole idea of patterns needs to keep you got to keep your critical thinking hats on, okay? So the spiral, this is where the whole herb spiral thing, people putting swales everywhere. This is where people get really ahead of themselves. And this is where, like, a lot of people make jokes online, you know what I mean, on Facebook and those kind of groups. It's because they just dive into the patterns and then they don't see that these patterns are simply lenses of recognition and problem solving. They're not lenses for just creative, like, doodling and going crazy, though that has been the case in some instances that people have done that. All right. I'm going to zoom in. And yes, I do need glasses. All right. we found my glasses. They just were left outside in that 120-degree heat. And so the that lens layer that they have on it, like inverse fractured it, like shrunk inward. And so it just doesn't look, you can't see through it really. All right. How can you, okay, you mentioned bone sauce for garden to keep away deer in one of your videos. How is it made? That is in the textbook. If you go to the textbook, and the thing is, you got to be careful because Sepp Holzer's book, Permaculture, describes bone sauce in a way that is completely different from mine. And that's because I describe Sepp Holzer's actual bone sauce, not Chelsea Green's Sepp Holzer Permaculture books. Because Zach Weiss, who's the only certified North American Sepp Holzer designer, has lived and spent time with Sepp, seen all these designs, understands the rationale and the principles behind everything. Says that's not how it's done. In fact, he says that's how you kill a tree. So it's really, really important. And I mean, he should know. I mean, he has to be the filter for all these people who speak English that are interested in Sepp Holzer, because Sepp doesn't speak English. So he's got experience with people doing all this stuff and the backlash. And so he just does the bone sauce with the 2 cauldrons that are mashed with a screen in between with bones on top, and then a little bit of water in it so it steams up, but it doesn't go, it doesn't break the clay seal around the edges between the two. So this is not, and some steam will obviously be released possibly, but this is not like you're sealing to create a pressure cooker. You're just sealing it enough so that it traps it, and then you're burying half of it in the ground, the top half you're building a fire on, and you're burning the fire down so the heat drives the bone marrow and everything down and just makes a sauce. It smells like barbecue, and it looks like the stuff that sticks to the barbecue that you're scraping off. And so that Zach is a liquid, and Zach adds, and it's also not water soluble, so it stays, and he dabs it on his trees, and he says it works without fencing. I have not tried that, but I find that the deer do the pruning for you if you design things the right way. And so, I mean, there's so many different perspectives, and you got to observe. Maybe your deer are starved. Maybe your deer are so well fed they don't even care. I mean, it really depends on where you are and what's going on. I've seen animals behave just completely different. The bobcat here last night, not last night, the night before, acted downright human. I mean, the guy like just ripped open holes in things and poked his head, checked things out, and then poked his head in a car and kind of checked it out. I mean, like, bobcats in California are mission oriented. The bobcat just like went straight to the chicken coop, ripped open the metal roof, and went inside and killed 40 birds and came back the next day. So I don't know. It's really, really wild. But we got like prints and everything, and it's a big animal. So yeah, bone sauce. It really depends. It's worthwhile to experiment, but I haven't been able to I haven't found any like used like pots that I could match to do the bone sauce. I've had bones, but I've never had the matched thing to do that. And then I was in an area that was always like the most fire prone, and like we had pieces of plastic on the sides of roads starting fires. So it was so dry, and the sun was being magnified by little bits of plastic garbage. Yeah, so I kind of stayed away from the fire side of things. So I haven't tried bone sauce, but that's one solution. I created living fences, and I'll go over this further in the course, but I created living fences to keep them out. Can you explain the torus pattern a little more? I know you mentioned the tree would be an example, how its roots grow similar to the branches. What are the other examples of this? So the way the magnetic field of the earth works, it comes from the core and goes around. This is a torus pattern. And then you also have the mushroom, right? So, and it's not a perfect torus, it's more like a half torus, right? So all the mycelium mat, and then it comes up and it forms that torus formation. And then you have the explosion. And when it hits, like the nuclear bomb hits the ground, it makes that big torus. if it's out in space or in the air, it actually goes both ways. And so it goes boom, and it creates that torus. We see it in the way stars are being formed. We see it in the universe. It's also the magnetic field of our bodies. We have this torus of energy around us. Everything has a magnetic energy, right? Everything has electromagnetic. And that's a whole nother conversation. Bioelectricity, we've known about it, but we've not really understood it. But we're thinking now, because fungi does things that are impossible, that it must be through a bioelectrical pathway. So there's a lot of room there to study that. Yeah. And so the torus pattern is all over. You can see it in the apple. If you open up an apple, the core of an apple forms that torus pattern. And so it's the force around it, right? And through it. And so there's lots of fruits that do it too. You see it inside of watermelons, the way they go up and then they branch like this, and then the seeds are here. You know what I'm talking about? Where there's those circular motions like this inside the watermelon. Yeah. So the torus is a pattern that's everywhere. All right. What are the exact requirements for certification process regarding water management and waste management with specific regards to inorganic apparatus such as water lines, lighting, and hence bulbs, devices such as computers, water filters? What are the exact requirements for certification process regarding water management, potential waste management with specific regards to inorganic apparatus such as water lines, lighting, and hence bulbs, devices and such, computers, trays, water filters? I understand the first part of the question here. The second part seems to be less clear. So the certification process, I want to give you all the abilities and options and understanding to understand what municipalities are doing when they're doing it right, so that potentially you could set up, help run, troubleshoot a system that's already in place, or you could design a system. Keeping in mind that no one has to do that. You're not required to do that as your specific advanced certification, because not everyone has the ability to just do everything under the sun. I mean, essentially all of us are modeling in our own lives, our own homesteads, different aspects of the regenerative lifestyle, economy, and all this, but very few of us can do everything. I mean, Jeff Lund has got the market garden. He's got some rocket stove heating. He's got some rocket stove water heating. You know, he's got some solar panels, composting. You know, he's got a lot of the aspects. He has the land to do it. If you are in an urban apartment setting, can you really handle your own waste the same way? It might be illegal for you to handle your waste in the same way. So it's all going to depend, and that's why I give leeway, because in your area, you might be pushing hard into the gray water, and everyone's just rocking it, and it's leading to all these other things. So because gray water was such a big success, people are like, oh, well, what else relates to gray water? And then you start looking at perennial native food forests, and you know, and all these things build off of one another. But it all kind of starts with you choosing what you want to do. So you might be setting up a farm. You might be setting up an off-grid electrical system. So it really depends on your situation for your certification. And that's the power of this certification, is it's tailored to who you are and want to be and what you want to do. So it's not a cookie cutter. It's powerful because it's empowering. So the exact requirements for the certification process says that you apply stuff you learned from this course at an advanced level. And what does that mean? At a regenerative level. So that means that you are actually building soil, you're cleaning water, you're measurably changing your environment and yourself to be more in line with the natural cycles, that you can prove it. You've got evidence. Maybe it's soil organic matter. Maybe it's, the depth of, the water table, or it totally depends on what you're doing. Maybe you're restoring a watershed. Maybe it's, maybe you own 15,000 acres and you've got bark beetle and you want to save your forest, and you are literally just partnering with Organics Alive, scaling this up, improving this model. And, the sky's really the limit. You may be organizing people together. You may be teaching children permaculture. You may be creating your own curriculum for working with kids. Sky's the limit. We need it all. So that's the certification process exactly. It's designed so that, because honestly, here on this site, I'm going to be doing rainwater harvesting. I am going to be doing a compost a compost toilet inside. I've got a pea bucket one right now, but I want to scale up and go to the next level. Portland right now is allowed for using a bucket as a total bathroom for both number 1 and number 2. And so Humanor can go in there, and then they literally have a process. It's approved. So things are happening really fast. I think that you don't need to worry about the laws as much if you find a path. So what happens is, it's like water. As soon as you find a pathway through that dam of opposition, it'll start eroding that dam wall and eventually break it. So that's why we got to keep that dam wall dry, right? But at the same time, that's why we need to always look for opportunities for inroads, for change. Are there publicly accessible farm demonstrations in Southern California that I could visit? Yes, absolutely. There's this amazing site that has multiple farm. It's like a co-op almost for farmers, and it's got a lot of good examples on it right now. It's got a food forest that's going in. It's semi-developed. Ecology Artisans outside of San Diego. They're doing, I want to say Encinitas, maybe that's wrong. But they are doing it. They've got that open site. Further up in Northern California, you've got the Permaculture Skills Center, which is an amazing example there. And then back down again, you have the San Juan Capistrano, the Ecology Center, which is also featured in this course. All these areas are featured in this course. So you'll see these examples, and then you'll be able to go visit them. And then you have Makeda Macasa's Gardens in Balboa Park in San Diego. And then you have there are more. They'll come to me. But yeah, no, they're around. And there's a lot of talk actually about doing a lot more and a lot more public ones. So there's about to be a lot more stuff available. Okay, I'm gaining a deeper insight into the 5 steps to a regenerative future. I need to better understand and to establish goals for doing in such a larger concept of a permaculture project, focusing on a commercial neighborhood scale food forest. And how to measure success, failure of such concepts and adapt for the longer term success. Do you have some references I could read? No, I don't. I haven't done the reading for the week. So there are sightings. I will look into them. Okay, so the 5 steps for an abundant future is a condensing of all the information in this course and in that book set. So yeah, you're going to find all the answers to how to do all of that in this course. And that's why, that's why I simplified it though, so kids can understand it. You're like, whoa, that's crazy. It seems so possible and doable, but how do we now turn it into actual action? And for people who have done work with soil for so long, they're like, oh yeah, I get it. People who have planted for us, they're like, oh yeah, that's easy. You know what I mean? So So we can totally do this, and you will do this as you dive into the course. Oh man, so someone says that the patterns of their big black book has clean, unwrinkled pages. Never saw them as more than mildly interesting. Yeah, that's kind of how it was for me, and it's really, really awesome that people are giving me this feedback that when I got interested in it, the pathway I followed is one that they can also follow. That's really important. Okay, I enjoyed all this so far. I appreciate the pace and the length of the video presentations. You're a teacher too. Cool. Although I am not in the Facebook discussion group, I imagine I am missing out. I don't know about that. I think that it's just different. I've appreciated the comments people are leaving in the videos and rating. They're very helpful and positive. I think there's definitely more comments in the course than outside of the course. Okay, sweet. Edge effect. Yeah, it's crazy how cool edge effect is and how it applies to people systems and as well as natural systems. Right. Okay. Are people feeling like I'm moving too fast? Does it feel like there's too much, like too many videos per week? This is really critically important. I'm not married to the time. I wanted to make it like 4 hours so people felt like it would fit into that 16-week thing and be that 72 hours, you know what I mean? 3 to 5 hours. But we have 20 weeks, and realistically, this is not about who's the fastest. This is not about the person who has, you know, the answers all at once. This course is about getting you to the place where you find what you need to take you to that next level, and you know where that level is, not me. I'm going to cover everything. I'm going to cover the spectrum. So I'm going to hit where you're at probably, or combination of different things that you're going to blend together and create something new. Or they're going to be like, hey, Matt, there's a section actually between these two that's a finer point or something. I don't know. But I'm here to facilitate your growth to that next level, and I can't tell you how to do it. So if you need more time, if we need to slow down a little bit, just let me know and comment on this, guys. Let me know. If you guys need it to be 3 hours a week, that's fine. So just let me know. Just let me know. That's why I did the reading. That's why I'm doing the reading, to make it super, super doable. But if we need to slow it down, we need to slow it down. That's like a teacher's like #1 like thing. If you're rushing through the lesson, they're not learning. So I notice already that that about 1/3 of the questions express that that they're loving it. About 25% express that they need to finish. So you do have the rest of the week, but I also want to have this time so that you can ask those questions, so that on Saturday, if you finish and you're like, oh man, I got a question now for that live Q&A. I don't want that. I don't want that hanging over for you. And feel free to ask it next week, or to write it into the survey for next week, whatever you need to do. But I just want to let you know, reach out, express. I respond. I'm really good with feedback. I give surveys all the time in my classrooms, and I mean, I was the most flexible teacher that I've ever met, ever known of in school. So I'd like to keep that going. All right. So I like the workbook activities. I find it a nice way to go about practicing observation. Awesome. I really feel like you're setting up a strong foundation for the rest of the course. My brain feels a bit full, and I'm excited to start using these broader concepts on things. Yeah. We got to apply it for these things to stick, because if we don't, it won't stick. Edge effect and really stacking functions. Okay. So, and you have more questions about these. No specific questions. You just want me to dive in deeper. All right. So edge effect. When we think of when two things meet, there's always, this is where patterns begin. So whenever there's like two things meet, there's always a pattern, and that's an effect of them meeting. And patterns, remember, are expressions of energy. So there are these two things meeting, and they're high energy events. And the more sophisticated, the more perfect they are, the more high energy has gone into it. The more energy has gone into it, the more high energy it is. And so the edge is this opportunity. And so when you're thinking about it intellectually, this is why multiple examples helps us understand the concept better, because it gives us edges on the same idea, multiple edges. And then you start getting the whole of it. You start seeing the actual representation of it. You create a schema for it. And that is your pattern for it. And it can complex as you learn more about it and more perspectives. And this is the way our brains work. And this is also the way that these edges work. So those edges, right, they meet and then they make this pattern. And that pattern is this high energy event. But where does that energy go? It goes somewhere. Maybe it's going up and it's creating this tornado. Maybe it's going down and it's sinking that water, or it's sequestering carbon. But it's always increasing. That energy is hitting there and it's creating this pattern to deal with that energy. And so that's creating things. You have plate tectonics hitting, you have mountains being made. You've got expressions of that energy being created. So when you combine things, you cannot help but gain in power and understanding. And it's that fluidity and fluency that comes from that. So edge effect is really incredibly powerful. I love edge effect. I could probably talk about that more. I'd probably write a book about the edge effect. So stacking functions. So stacking functions is really interesting because once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. You're like, oh, well, you know, I want to be able to have my water up high so that it can actually irrigate down, and then after it's done irrigating that area, it's gonna pass through that, and it's going to, like the duck pond example, where they reuse the water 3 different times, so they stack the functions of that water. When they could have just dumped out the duck pond, but it's more than that. It's like Swiss Army knife, stack functions in one little thing. It's like being a triple threat. You know what I mean? Having 3 different high level skills. Being good at dribbling, shooting, and running. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things, or jumping. You know, it's being stacking functions creates so much. So when you do agroforestry, you add trees to an annual setting, you start stacking functions. And then you start getting all these syntropic benefits, because every stage, if it's stacked properly, the inputs and the outputs start feeding each other and create feedback loops. And then it starts going, wow, 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 like with a guitar leaning up against an amp. So stacking functions is, it's also found in nature with the multiplicity of function in one space. So the way a tree is creating rain, the way it's slowing air, the way that it's providing habitat, that's all stacked functions. The way that your vermicompost has a drip down thing so you can use the leachate, or all these different things are trying to just add new functions onto a whole. And that's what it is. It's just, you know what I mean, adding new functions and functionality in a single space or to a whole. Okay, the use of compost in a garden and compost tea. I'm not going to answer this one now. Because we're going to dive into that really deep in the soil section. Because compost, it's kind of a can of worms. And I mean, I've got to dive a little bit further into the soil section. It may end up being 2 weeks long, because we already might be over 4 or 5 hours of material. there's a lot to be said there. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to be moving things around if we need longer in certain sections. If people need more feedback, I'm going to be going longer in these sessions too. It all really depends on what your needs are so that we can actually accomplish the things that we're setting out to do. All right, so really enjoyed referencing all your source text in the videos. Though having just joined, I don't have any hard copies of text or workbooks yet. And being visual, I want those hand references to go back to. Okay, so all the books that I'm mentioning, I'm going to, well, I'm going to compile a reading list. I mean, it's in the back of the books. You know what I mean? It's in the back of the book. But I mean, I want like things like this. Reverse, you know. But tree crops, you know, J. Russell Smith. I mean, that's the book that inspired the whole idea of permaculture in the beginning. I mean, it's permanent agriculture before permanent culture became the idea. And like as David Holmgren said. So I'm going to keep bringing the books. I'm going to keep, you know, bringing the complexity, the examples, and I mean, I already have 2 film trips planned out, and I don't plan on stopping. I've got long-term plans of going to certain historical sites and documenting other countries' historical sites. So I'm going to keep planning on adding more and more sources to this course. And every time I add a video, it'll notify you. It'll be like, ding, new video, and you'll be like, okay, you know. So don't worry about that. I'm gonna continue adding to this so that maybe you're in the middle of your actual certification and you're building something and something comes up and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't understand this. No one's done this before, so no one. And then oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Take a drink of water. Oh yeah, and then I'm going to come at you with a video that no one has ever seen, and they're working on something similar to you or the same exact thing, and their insights allow you to go ahead, to progress. And so I'm going to keep doing that because, oh boy, there are so many examples out there, and they're mostly niche. They're mostly not like Bruce Steele, who we'll see in this course, has got it figured out. He has a farm that has no, you know, it's zero in carbon emissions. I mean, he has figured it out. And I mean, yes, when you burn biodiesel, it does let off CO2, but it's totally different. It's just so different. So he has set up a system where his carbon budget is negative because of what he's doing, and so he is burning some stuff, but he's compensating for it. So no one's off. I don't know of any other off-grid farm. I don't know anyone who's actually accounting for their carbon like he is. I don't know anyone who's eating strictly off their farm and eating like a king, I might add. He is eating like a king. It's amazing. So it's so good. It's really unbelievable. So when people talk about, oh, does that person live off the land? Da, 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 da. It's like there are very few of us who are doing that. And that's why, and they chose their battle. They're like, oh no, well, I chose to focus on this because this is what I'm really into. This is what I know I can do. And then other person's like, oh, well, I focused on the fiber shed because I love dyes and I did dyes with wool. But my friend over here just focused on creating the wool. And so we end up having to do niches in order to create the ground to plant and to create more fertility and to spread those ideas. So as part of the certification, you're going to find, and that's why I'm going to keep hitting with examples, you're going to find that you're going to be a niche. And that's okay. That's so good because we need everyone to be exploring these niches to the fullest. And as we develop that schema, it will automatically start connecting to others because as they have the ability to condense their 3 years of experience into 2 hours. Because that's what all this is. We're taking experiences upon experiences upon experiences, condensing upon condensing upon condensing in order to create these amazingly insightful, like educational experiences. That's what PDC is, that's what this course is, so that you could actually take this information and then act on it. And you're gonna do the same thing within your own niche. It's like we talked about, that schema, that pattern keeps going and going. Once you learn something, you realize something more, always. So that's gonna happen with you in your own area, but you're going to have that micro to macro. It's gonna fit into this larger organization, orchestration, and then you're going to see how it connects to everything at the same time. So it's not this isolated silo of information. It actually enhances everyone else's information around you. And then as you do that, you reinforce your own learning and you deepen your own understanding. And then you see the next layer much easier. This is why teaching is the highest form of learning. And this is totally proven. Teaching is the highest form of learning because of how many times you have to go over the material and how much depth you have to actually convey it in a way that is understandable. So, yeah, I love references and I love real working examples. So we're not theory here alone. We're doing theory, application, and then synthesis, and then we're comparing, contrasting, adapting, doing feedback, asking critical questions. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And this is unlike any other program that's out there. And hopefully that changes. Hopefully this gets a reaction. And we are just the first among a totally new wave of education online. And they're doing great things online education, but they're still in the lecture mode. They're still just, you know, videotaping the lecture teacher and being like, it's the best lecturer we've got. Yeah, we've got to get to that next stage. And that's why this course is designed that way. So at the end of this course, it's you who is the center. I mean, yeah, we're starting off here, the Earth Center, like I'm the lead educator right now, but you're going to be teaching us from your own perspective and experiences on your own site with niche stuff that's at a higher level. You're exploring and pushing that edge, and it's going to change you. It's going to change us, and it's going to be this lateral educational experience that's unlike anything that we've ever had before. And next, all right, so you really like the quotes. Yeah, behaviorally challenged kids. Ross Green is great. Really, really great stuff. If you're an educator and you don't check out nonviolent communication and like people like Ross Green, it can be very hard. It can be really hard because you don't have that perspective of understanding what's going on in their heads, and you might fall into the trap of the way teachers acted when you were a kid. Yeah, and this allows you to step away from that. So I'm so glad you like those. So some of the names mentioned gave me avenues to learn more. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm just going to do that. That's what I love to do. Because no one learns anything in a vacuum. No one knows anything in a vacuum. It all comes from somewhere, and everything's always remix, mashup, and copy. And that's all how human expression and cognition have changed over time. The addition of new principles and their explanations. Necessitous and creative use explanations help me see the larger picture. Very well put. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, so, and this progression, like I said, is an evolution. So for me, I wrote those in because I saw the way students learn, and Bill did not have that psychological research-based evidence that I had as a master's degree teacher. So he didn't have that, and he was also a university professor who just lectured. He wasn't in a student-centered, project-based learning environment where you it was frowned upon for you to be sitting at your desk. If you got caught sitting at your desk, you weren't doing your job. You had to be up and walking the whole day. And actually, I got to the point where I made a circle and I put my desk in the middle of the room, but I didn't put a desk. I put a podium. So I'd always have to be standing. And so, yeah, and so I was always on stage, basically. But that's just it, is that you are the facilitator. And then what happened was every time it was there, because there's equal, it's a circle, but every time we got to the end of anything learning, they would present. And so they would go in the front and they would perform and they would teach us. And this is literally what I'm doing here too, I know. It's the same exact thing as my class, but the changes I saw, the fact that I didn't use homework and they got the highest scores in the county, in the sixth most violent county in America. The fact that I saw the difference, because I was their sub. I mean, I saw these kids as kids, like when they were really little, and then I got them as these mini adults, you know, and then I saw them grow up and everything with me so much in that sophomore year, that I could see when I was causing damage just by standing in the way. And so, because when you move out of the way, they move so fast. They're amazing. I mean, we wonder why, like, Alexander the Great, you know, conquered all this. He was a child, you know what I mean? And it's because, and we wonder why, you know, all these individuals, like, oh man, their name escapes me. There was this geneticist scientist who was 13. She was the lead geneticist, one of the leading geneticists in America. She was a 13-year-old girl, and she married an older guy. I think he was maybe 20s or something, and it looks really bad, you know. But it was an intellectual thing. She was one of the leading experts in the country. One of the leading naval officers, the guy who said, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." He joined the Navy at age 9 and became an officer of distinction at age 12. So and then in fourth grade, fourth graders in New York City in the 50s or 60s, don't quote me on that, this teacher was teaching them Shakespeare, and they were getting it. Not only were they getting it, but they were able to act it out. They were able to like play it out, and they understood this complexity and all this stuff. And then you go back further, in 1850s, the primers had things like Frederick Douglass, things like Shakespeare, things like Coleman's, you know, Kubla Khan, and, you know, just crazy, difficult things that we only learn or in college, but fourth grade children are learning in the past. So I really have so much respect for our youth that I stepped out of the way, and when I did, something incredible happened. Because I'm a history teacher too, and so I understood the history of child performance, and not only that, I mean, I'm an unschooling parent. My child taught himself to play piano, and he's phenomenal. He writes music like that. People are like, "Wow, what is this?" You know, he walks into buildings and just starts playing piano. Instead of them yelling at them, they come up and like, oh, and then people take out their cell phones and start videotaping. I know the power of getting out of the way of enthusiasm. Once you spark it, it just takes off. So that's really where that all comes from. All right. Yeah, everyone. All right. So the 5 steps. The 5 steps we're going to be diving into. Like I said, it's a condensing of all the information in this course. So I introduced at the beginning to prime your minds, but then as you go through, you're going to see those things lit up the whole time. And then at the end, you're going to be like, I get the 5 steps. I get what each one, so many possibilities in each one. All right, cool. Explanation of the origins of the principles. The principles are coming from Bill Mollison's Permaculture, a designer's manual, and I've adapted them. I've adapted the language. I've added more principles. I've combined a couple different things and then updated their understanding. But the principles and the ethics are all coming from indigenous peoples and the longest lasting cultures on Earth. That's what they studied. And Bill majorly studied the Aborigines of Australia. And that's why I'm going to be reading this book, Dark Emu. And then this other book, oh man, Darren Doherty, our teacher, was recommending it. Well, anyway, it's the next book I'm reading on Audible. I have physical books I read, and then I have audio books I read, because I can't stand doing dishes without like an audiobook or making food or something like that. I just have to constantly be thinking and learning, because it really keeps me on point. So these principles are from, like, they're a synthesis of all these different cultures from around the world. And that's why so much of this is indigenous. And that's why it's really critical that we constantly bring that back up. Because what will happen is you'll see that in an indigenous practice, and then you'll be able to highlight that in a way that shows the science, and in a way that people, and it doesn't matter where they are, indigenous people are all over the world, will respect and then start adopting those indigenous patterns again. Because those indigenous patterns are the opposite, as Mark Lakeman, our teacher, talks about, of the grid. And the grid pattern, the 90-degree, the squares, the grid pattern, the intersection, is the form of control and dominance that is destroying the world in essence. So the indigenous patterns, ideas, we have to bring back and inoculate those areas so that we take them back and we make them functional again, because they're non-functional. They are dead ends. These grid patterns, they set up and then they destroy life and they spread. So when we can reverse that trend, don't worry about that. Mark Lakeman's example is absolutely incredible, and it is spreading. Okay, sweet. Move on. I'm glad you like the way that was designed, that was explained. You like the audio files as you did your work. Awesome. My question is actually coming from the video I watched with you and Elaine. She had mentioned if you give a plant the right type of soil that meets the particular plant's needs, that it should grow just about anywhere except the North Pole, of course. So it's possible to grow, say, a banana tree in Colorado at 6,000 feet elevation if I meet its nutrient needs. Okay, she literally said, and it was like she was quoting my book, that you can't do bananas in the cold, temperate Arctic zones. You could totally do it in a greenhouse. You might not get enough sun, but that's the thing. What are the controlling factors? Your climate, and so that means your weather, your sun, all those things you can't really change. The plant's keyed into those things, but your soil fertility can unlock so much potential. So what that means is that, yeah, you can grow almost any plant almost anywhere if it's within its climatic tolerances. So like that's just it. You can't do a banana in Antarctica, but you can grow it at 6,000 feet in the Andes in winter in a wallapini. So it is possible to have groany dog. That's my dog right there. That's Shadow. So it is totally possible. All right. I have one completely off and far left field. When SpaceX Mars colony preparation starts, should they send out a few tons of compost? So you're part of Earth. Would the correct minerals and nutrients be already available on another planet? Colony life expectancy. Told you it was out there. No unexpected, just a thought. Okay. So the thing is, there are soils that are dirt here on Earth that are lacking the life. And so there are conditions that bring that life, maintain that life, and feed that life. Those conditions will not be met on Mars. Obviously, yeah, if they were going to do anything that will support life over there, they could set up greenhouses and they could bring soil and they could do all that. But it wouldn't work out exactly like he did. There's a bunch of different reasons why. And like people actually did articles on why you couldn't do potatoes growing the way he did. But yeah, I really think that we need to fix this planet before we look at any other planets. I was once liking space and all those kind of things, and I do find space interesting. I think it's beautiful. I love the stars, and I totally understand that there is, there's like extraterrestrial influences, there's solar flares, there's things we should think about, and and they're real. But I just think that the soil is our strongest leverage point of control, of expression, of healing. So if we don't start there, then none of that matters. we have the best chance right now to make the biggest impact, to affect the most people, the most biodiversity, to grow the most soil, to have the greatest effect on climate instability right now. And if we do our part, we will see massive change. The pieces are aligning. We are going to turn this around. Don't let the media fool you. It's not being reported in the media in America, but there are huge, massive changes happening around the world. And America is being moved beyond. It's that economic empire, you know, it's hollowed out, it's overextended, it's scarcity based. The soil of the empire is running thin. When this happened in Rome, caused the collapse. So, and if you want to read a great book on this, read Dirt, Erosion of Civilizations. It's right up here. I have so many books. All right, well, it's over there. It's really, really good. Oh, come on, where is it? I'll find it, hold on. Because I want to tell you his name. All right, well, it's Dirt. There we go. I just had to lean a little bit further. It's Montgomery. I want to say West Montgomery, but that's someone else entirely different. So there's David R. Montgomery, Dirt, The Erosion of Civilization. And so this book actually reframes all of history class. So you think you know history? No, not unless you read that stuff. Not unless you know what's going on there. Because every single war, collapse, all these different things were caused directly by soil, or the lack thereof. And in fact, George Washington left office as U.S. president, the first U.S. president, convinced that America would fall due to a lack of soil. So yeah, I really think that soil is the linchpin, the point of leverage. And if we don't start there, we'll never get to where we need to go. Yeah, everyone wants to know how to make compost. Yeah, Elaine has that effect, doesn't she? We in this course are super privileged to have in-depth information from her about composting. And I'm talking about in-depth. So we're going to be going over so much detail on composting that it is going to just drop you right into the middle of her educational path. So this is not something where you're going to be like learning my course and then have to learn her course. You're going to be like sprinting going into her course. You'll be like, yeah, I get that. And it's just going to add onto your understanding and then scale it up to a professional microscopic level. And you're going to be able to do science, like consulting and all this science. So there's no other course or book series available that's vetted by Elaine Ingham like mine. There's nothing that leads up. And she was like, Matt, I've done this thing before with permaculturists, and they never take my edits. They never really listen to me. They just do their own thing and then slap my name on it. And it was like, ooh, that's not good. And so I really spent time, and it took months. But between her and Peter McCoy, who's a radical mycology, mycologos, fungi expert, I was able to get this conversation flowing. And we went so much deeper. And in fact, I mean, I know there are charts that don't exist other than my course because Elaine has asked me to use them in her stuff. She's taken my stuff that we created together to use for her stuff. So there's so much value in what you're about to learn in the soil section. And all the stuff that you're learning from Elaine, it's going to be in this course and then lead right to her course certification path. There's nothing that leads you directly to it other than my course. So this is super powerful. And my course also leads directly to Peter McCoy's courses and Darren Doherty's courses on keyline and farm planning, because I designed it all with them. And they went over everything with me because they knew that I would make the edits, that I would do the due diligence, that I'm not afraid of revision, not afraid of being wrong, not afraid of doing the work and spending the entire day for 3-4 years working. And that's okay. I am not afraid to do the work that needs to be done so that all of our children, our grandchildren, the future can be one that I can be relaxed about. I can't accept. I will not accept the doomsday scenarios. Not going to happen. Not on my watch. So, yeah. Compost. SpaceX. All right. So, will there be assignments each week? Yes. But remember, like I said with the assignments, do what leads you on your path. Follow your path. If it's like, we're going to be doing this week, and you're like, I'm in an apartment, I can't do that. Don't worry about it. I'm going to try to also have equivalents for all spectrums at each stage. So I'll try to have activities for you. But the idea is that we're actually applying this. We're actually thinking about it as we do something. And as we do things, we trigger other parts of our brain because we're physically actually acting. And when we do that, when we actually are physically acting, we're actually encoding it in a completely different way, laterally connecting to all these other parts of our brain. So the learning goes to a completely new area. So it's really important that that's why there's assignments each week, I believe. And I don't see them as assignments. I'm trying to call them activities. Because it's like homework. And then there's like, it's like practice and study. You know, those things are powerful things. They're not tainted, but homework, assignments. I didn't sign this role. It shows a lack of choice. So I want to have them be activities. I want to have them be options. I want you to not feel shut down by the options in this course. I want you to feel lit up and that you can really travel with this. All right, so the information has been covered well. Provided more answers than questions. That's good. I want to hear more about the course trajectory. Will there be projects? Of course, yeah, there's going to be projects. You tests, I mean, they're performative assessments. They're performance-based assessments. So yeah, I mean, if you want a certification of PDC, you always have to do a design. That's the test. That's the assessment. And really that's about probing for learning. It's seeing if you learned what was taught. It's about proving that you understood. And then the next step after that, that's really the course trajectory. It's not going to be just a PDC. We have a course trajectory that goes beyond it, and you're going to then be doing it. And then you're going to be doing it with a series, a metric for success, a goal in mind, and a timeline. And when you do that, you're going to be able to monitor yourself, monitor your progress, and then get feedback so you know how to improve, what to do next, and grow. And because it's real, it's going to be completely different than just this certification that's a piece of paper. And I love my certification. I got my little certification right here. I've got my certification, but it just was a design. And yeah, I turned that design into a real site, and many of us have done that. But my certification isn't my site. Even though online, everyone's like, where's your site? Let me see your site. Everyone's like, always like, let me see your badge, right? They're like, but the reality is, I want you to do something. So you're like, oh, well, my advanced permaculture certification process actually involved creating this business, creating this homestead, discovering a new way to inoculate mushrooms, or, I don't know, the sky's the limit, really. So we really need research done. We really need all these things done. So that's the course trajectory. And those are the projects. Those are the tests. What are the requirements to gain certification? That's what those are. I made a video about this early on. Not everyone saw it, obviously. That's okay. But that's how the course will work. So next. I have read Bill's book carefully, but after your lectures and all the information, I have gotten But after your lectures, all information I have gotten took places. Oh, I think I get it. So you were able to place the information finally, like it was holding in your working memory. That's exactly why I give all the examples I give, to give you edges so you can get the whole, and then you can encapsulate that idea in there, and then you can hold on to it and use it. Thank you for that feedback. If I miss all the live Q&As because of working, can I still benefit from them somehow? Yeah, you can watch it after it's done forever, and your question that you ask that's from the survey will be answered, just like it was right then. So yeah, no, these are a primary benefit because this is how you get your feedback. And yeah, in the course you may comment and I made feedback there, but it's different when it's in this format. You get information at a different level when it's visual. After watching the videos and going back to the first video, so it displayed the first download, I couldn't find anywhere where it took the required reading. I told you the required reading. I had seen this, but then it seemed to disappear. I'll look into that. I'll write that down right now. Required reading list. That pin's dead. All right. But yeah, any technical questions you guys have, just let me know. So it was just page numbers you were looking for. I'll make sure to put them underneath. All right, so how will I successfully apply permaculture on my own property? That will be a question we will answer together as we travel through the course, because everyone's site is different and everyone's answer to that question will be different. What are good resources? Resource links to dive deeper about class materials. Good resource links to dive deeper about classroom materials, deeper into classroom materials or the sources. All my books, and the digitals are really easy for this. In the back of them has the resources. So you go through and you actually can click on a lot of the websites and videos, and so you can get a greater depth of understanding by actually seeing what inspired me to write that section, where that information is actually coming from, reading the journals, reading, the actual tests, the actual, research that went into this process. It was really beneficial for me because, as I said, I said that today when I was filming, but you will hear later on that it really depends on the person doing it. So we do all this research, but as you go further in, you'll discover that that person is an individual. And how they do things is individual. And so when we say that their insight is an insight into everything, it's limited by that in a lot of ways. So it's really important to dive into this to see the actual examples we're basing all these averages and numbers off of, so you actually get an understanding what's real. Because if we just go off averages and all of the numbers that we have, they're not real. None of them are real. They're averages. Averages are never real. They're representative of huge variable changes throughout time. So, and we'll get a lot into that very soon. All right, so next. How are people and plants fungi? Yes! All right, so first, and this is the fungi chapter actually. We're going to be going over this in detail, but fungi came first. All right, so the first plant cell, a eukaryote, ate a photosynthesizing bacteria. What was that cell? The only cells that were around were fungi. The only eukaryotes around were that cellular being was fungi. So the first plant was this fungal-like tree. And it looks like a cross between a tree and cordyceps. And then the next thing was this thing that looked more tree than it did look like cordyceps. And then it kept going and progressing until the trees looked less like fungi and looked more like plants. And then later on, you had animals arise. And animals are a combination of fungi and bacteria all the way through. And it's like, I mean, if we didn't have this healthy arrangement and balance, just like the soil has, we couldn't have any of the processes within our body work. So the way we digest food, we don't actually digest the food. That's not us doing it. That's the bacteria and the fungi that actually digest it. We like talking about the microbes in cows that way. Well, a cow is not actually digesting the food. It's the microbiology that does it. I mean, the cow just, absorbs the resultant material. That's what our stomach does too. We're not doing it. It's not a physical thing. It's a microbiological thing happening, and then it's releasing it, and then we're absorbing it. So it's not like our body is, doing those processes. And so we need fungi, we need bacteria. We are fungal beings. All animals are. They're a branch off of the fungal tree of evolution. So, and do I have copies of my guitar books? If you go on lulu.com, they are there. And they are also, I think, the iTunes store. And they might be on Amazon. I don't know. But yeah, I haven't messed with those in years. It just came to me that that's what I was doing just while I was recording that initially. And actually, if you look at those videos, I mean, those two books are really old. They're covered in beeswax because I just got more into doing other things, and they just get pushed to the side. How do you help people see how the world really works? Step out of linear thought without going deep edge into fantasy. By hands-on experiences and showing that the science is really not complicated. And we're going to get more and more into it. I think that the pattern section and the macro patterns are the most deep. That's the depth. That's where it gets crazy and all that stuff. But everything else is really provable, and then everything else is really rooted in research that everyone can go out and do. So what do I mean by that? Well, while like the pulsar of the sun and everything we know and understand, we can't like step back from the planet and like stare at it and watch it happen and analyze it and see all the places happening all at once. And we can't do that, but we can certainly do that with a compost pile. You can certainly do that with growing plants. And so when you actually make it something under their control and hands-on, it becomes totally knowable, doable, less scary, and that teaches them how the world really works. What are good resource links to deeper dives about class materials? Oh yeah, we just did that one. The same variety of potato grown in other parts of Europe at the same time with less devastation. Problem with Ireland had more to do with British government shipping all the food out of Ireland to starve the Irish landowners out. Yeah, all right. So what went on with the Irish Holocaust was twofold, for sure. But the thing with the Irish that was different from all those other areas with poor people was the Irish took a particular liking to the potato and relied upon it completely. So while the rest of Europe was growing the lumper too and had crop failure too, what happened in Ireland was they had to ship to pay their landlords all that wheat to Britain and oatmeal to Britain. And so they ended up, or oats, not oatmeal, that'd be hilarious. But they ended up with just potatoes, but that was their plan. This was like the big Irish plan. And not only that, the Irish also were overpopulated because of it. Other parts of Europe didn't rely upon the potato. They didn't see it as a way to boost their population quite the same way as the Irish did. So the Irish had this population boom. They relied totally upon the potato. And then, yes, they had landlords that removed that food that could have helped them. It wasn't enough food to feed them all because they relied so much upon the lumper for the really economic freedom, because they could seriously create a mound of potatoes and just toss the potatoes on it and then cover it up and then have a huge explosion of food. they didn't have to do work in the way that they used to. Everything changed for the Irish when they saw what could happen. And because of that, that led to all this stuff. And that's why the British had all these opinions. They said, look at the lazy Irish. Look at the, you gave them the potato, and did it profit him? No, he didn't, gain more money. He didn't gain more wealth. Instead, he started lazing about and had more children. My line would be one of those. Yeah, I mean, my family came over in one of those waves of the potato famine. So this is something that thought about and studied, and I was an Irish studies minor at NYU. So this is definitely something I thought about. And yes, the person was like, I want you to point out the British government stole their food. And it's like, yeah, of course, that was a big part of the thing. I mean, right now we're having the same thing happen. It's a landlord society over there. And that's why we fled to America. And that's why when we met the Native Americans and saw how free they were, the indigenous people's ideas and concepts of being free were so foreign to us that they inspired us and created this huge explosion in Europe of thought. That's why John Locke got his ideas to begin with. So we need to understand that that we left these areas because of the restrictions, and we couldn't think holistically, I think, because we were so restricted. They just saw it as a solution. They saw it as a way out, and they just leapt on it. It was herb spirals. It was swale syndrome, right? They just couldn't see it holistically because they weren't living in a holistic system. And right now in America, people are rents going through the roof. This is what happened over in Europe. People are getting kicked off land. Land is becoming impossible to own. This is what happened in Europe. And so we're in a similar situation where we're losing the middle class. We're having poverty grow, and we're having the uber wealthy grow too. And we just need to embrace indigenous patterns again, just like we did when we formed America. America was a reaction to indigenous patterns. All right. So biodynamic, where are you? There we go. Biodynamics seems to mirror permaculture in a beautiful way by incorporating a similar vision, holistic to accomplish the task of our time. Do you think that presenting this wisdom through permaculture rather than esotericism will make an acceptance and transition towards a regenerative economy less challenging? Next question, the spiral pattern. Are we concentrating water with the constituents of compost extract and compost tea if we utilize the spiral pattern stirring or concoction in alternating directions? Well, what happens when we're doing the spiral pattern, remember, it's drawing from the bottom up as it's taking the bottom, you know what I mean? So it's mixing. And then what happens is they all get used to going that way, and then they form strands or lines, but then you turn it the other way and you break it up again. And then, so it depends on what you're doing. Like when you're doing liquid mycelium, you want to break it up. And so you use that turning pattern. You might have something in the bottom that spins like a magnet, and you do that that plate thing with a magnet, and it causes it to spin, and that spiral pattern breaks it up. That might be what you're doing. But let's go back to the beginning. So what is biodynamic? It helps if we actually go to the beginning. So Rudolf Steiner was a folklore collector. He was a folk farming collector. And he would go and collect farming practices from all these different farmers, and they changed and were different from area to area to area. And he collected them all and then tried to create a uniform idea around it. And I don't think biodynamics is going to get very far because of this next part, because the mainstream will attack this. And this is what I read when I originally read his documents, when I originally read his original work, because I'm always going to read the original documents. That's how you get this truth, right? So Rudolf Steiner was a product of the times of Austria and Germany and all the thought around that time. So the pseudoscience of that time of race theory, of phrenology, of the bumps on your skull, influenced Rudolf Steiner, just like it influenced the Nazis. So there is stuff about race in his writing that is really controversial. And a lot of people will use. They'll be like, oh yeah, well, what about that? You know, and they'll get really mad. And so it's really important to understand that he's a product of his times. He collected all this folk, he just started collecting them so that he could carry this information forward. Why? Well, because at this time we had chemical and industrial machine agriculture beginning to sweep through and destroy all the cultural traditions around agriculture, around animal husbandry, around horticulture. And so he was attempting to preserve all that information, but then he tried to make it into a cohesive, uniform system. And I think that's where things, because it wasn't rooted in science, and Dr. Elaine Ingham has literally run the tests with them, run the original Rudolf Steiner test over again, and proven that they don't turn out and they don't have the constituents, the mineral nutrient content that has been reported. Now that could be because they're variable results, because maybe in Germany, the soil types, the soil microorganisms in that certain area cause those things to happen. And that's why you see those results. So there are so many variables that go into these kinds of things. And so she was trying to get at the actual mechanisms that were going into biodynamic, causing these things to happen. This was early on in her career in the 80s and 90s when they were really studying what compost was. Because in the 80s, compost was killing things because they didn't understand it. So they would be creating compost and it would be bacterial dominant. They'd be putting on a perennial plot, and then they'd be seeing negative reactions. So it's really important to understand the full conversation around biodynamic. And I think that's what's holding it back, because it is basically the same concept. We want to pair with nature. We want to work with nature. We want to be able to understand the meanings of the patterns around us. And biodynamic has a lot of spiritual side to it. It has, you combine religions, you combine folk beliefs, you combine superstition, combined a lot of different things and created this beautiful thing. And that's why, you go to a Waldorf school one area, you go to another one in another area, and they're totally different. Because some of them are more steeped in those, those esoteric things, and some are more just steeped into the pragmatic side of what they're doing, biodynamic. And so it really depends on where they fall. I know some people feel like Waldorf schools, none of them are racist. And I know some people that feel like that there are schools that are racist, and it all just can be perception, it can be a personal experience, it can be an individual incident. I don't know. But those are the reasons that I have heard that biodynamic hasn't been able to make it into the mainstream. And there could be more reasons. Those reasons could be wrong. I don't know, but those are just my perception from the experiences that I've had and the reading and studying that I've done. It's fascinating stuff. We're going to be able to visit Sarah Patterson, who is a biodynamic market gardener, market farmer in Utah. And she uses some of these preps. She doesn't use all the biodynamic preps. I don't know anyone who does all the biodynamic preps. There's hundreds. And so, yeah, so we'll be able to visit her, and we'll be able to get some more insights there. Because, like I said, 5 steps, right? The names don't matter. If you're building soil, if you're improving, and it could be through that prep that you do. That prep could work amazing, cause all these unbelievable things. That's fine. You know what I mean? But I was just answering your question about why it could be possibly held back. So yeah, so we'll learn more about biodynamics as we go into the course. How to inspire others to want to learn about permaculture. I think it has to do with how much we can internalize and make it part of our lifestyle. If we can prove the power of permaculture in our own lives, then people will be excited. I had the opportunity to use permaculture in a very challenging environment, and it allowed me to do things that weren't possible. And so PBS came, people interviewed me, people came film me, visit me. And, you know, I mean, it was because of that demonstration. Will there be any chance of recipe DIY for such things as building your own A-frame or creating lab? Yeah, absolutely. This course, you're going to love this course. Oh, man. Yeah, everything. We're going to do everything. It's not going to be just theory. Oh, no. And that's why this course is so exciting, because we're going to do it together. We're going to report back. We're going to troubleshoot. We're going to get into this so we can actually do it. All right? All right. So permaculture has always spoken of long periods of observation, such as a year or so. Unfortunately, this is always an option. Please speak a little about what you can do if you don't have a year to wait. Right. So reading the landscape will become much easier after this course. You'll be able to see things you've never seen before. And that's why we're going through in this line-by-line process to create a solid lens and have all the elements along the way. And that's why it's also important that we don't go too fast. So if we are going too fast, if you feel like this was too many videos or too much reading in a week, let me know, because I can change things a little bit. I don't want to change. I'm not gonna put the brakes on anything, guys. I just like literally can adjust everything. So I can make it so instead of 5 hours, it was 3.5 or 4 hours, or you know, whatever. All right. So excellent. So thank you so much for putting those questions on. I'm gonna hop over now. It's been 3 hours almost. And so I'm going to hop over here and see if there's any questions over here. Yes, I homeschool my kids, Andy. You know what? My son is just entering his teen years, and he is having the difficulties come. And at the same time, I'm giving him more freedom, options, responsibility, because that's what you need when those challenges come. And so he's like knows what he's got to do, and he's like grabbing the edge he can handle. And so he's doing music every day. He started to do pull-ups every day. He's not doing push-ups, not doing his yoga. He's not doing meditation yet. He's not doing all those other things that he should do. But he's doing his push-ups, he's doing his music every day, he's doing all his schoolwork and stuff. And he's also reading like my ecology book every day. So he's doing things. He's not quite to his potential. I mean, he read over 100 pages in a Michael Vey book the other day. I mean, he just like, he can really read fast now. What happened was the translation from his audiobook abilities translated over. And we could talk about unschooling later in the course, but the way the brain works and learning works is really powerful. And the way skills transfer, that's part of what we're doing in this course too. And the reason I'm trying to give you so many examples, because you'll have skill transfers happen within your brain, and you'll be able to do things that you didn't practice, that you can somehow just do because it's a skill transfer. Yes, we got to include those apartment dwellers. All right. Okay, so I've got all the questions answered. Oh, wait. How cow manure on field sanitizes it? Okay, the cow manure doesn't sanitize it. The chickens going through them and spreading them out sanitizes that, because it spreads it out and has air and surface area, and so that it oxidizes those possible pathogens, and it closes the pest cycle too, because they're eating the grubs that would become the insects that would harass the cows. So that's what I meant by that. The paces feels good. That's awesome. The audiobook is very helpful. That is so good to hear. Water is obviously a main topic here. I am growing perennial trees and plants here and self-seeding annuals instead of only annuals. Do you feel it is waste of precious resource to grow fruit trees in the desert with mostly tap water? I will say this. You're going to have tons of great water, and fruit's awesome. And there is plenty of desert fruit. Look at figs. Look at dates. You've got olives. Um, you've got there is the ability to also do cactus fruit. That's what I was trying to find in my brain. Cactus fruit. All cactus fruit is edible, according to Joseph Simcox. It's not palatable. It's edible. But you can find extremely delicious varieties, like serious fruit punch varieties, delicious, all different colors, that you can grow and eat the fruit and then eat the pads, the nopales. Luther Burbank made some spineless varieties. Those will be covered in this course by Brock Dolman when we visit his site, or not his site, but his home, the Occidental Arts and Ecology Center. It's their collective site. So yeah. I'm gonna try to avoid telling you what to do. I really fear that kind of thing, because the reality is that doesn't allow you to grow. It steals an opportunity of growth from you. So I'm always gonna give you what I would think and go through in my thoughts and what I would consider. And I'm gonna try not to tell you what to do. I'm not gonna tell you should do this or you need this, and try to do that as little as possible. Obviously, you need water in your site. You need food growing in your site. I'm going to be there for those. I'm going to be there for the things that are for sure. But the things that are value judgments, I'm gonna lean on the side where I'm going to have you make those choices by giving you the options and explaining the situation fully. I think that's going to grow those muscles that you need to be an authority and confident in your area. And that's why I do that. And that's why the course is structured this way, because I really want you guys to come out of this as powerhouses. I came out of Jeff Lawton's course confident, not because of Jeff Lawton's course. I've been reading books for years. So I had already read Bill Mollison book. I was an English teacher at the time, and I was teaching my kids James Joyce, the Irish lit guy, considered the hardest stuff to read. I was teaching sophomores in the 6th most violent county, James Joyce. So I'm very comfortable reading complicated stuff, but it was the ability for me to ask questions of an expert that allowed me to just, because I was doing it, I was already ready and I was set up, and I was like, I'm going to get my questions answered. So while I do this, it's going to be an experiential thing for me. This is not an informational dive. And so I came out of that course totally different than other people, because I had actually asked all those higher level questions. And I asked all the questions that weren't in there. And then after that course, I was really good at asking questions of experts and then applying it in reality, in situ on my site. So what did I do? I kept going. I started asking Dr. Elaine Inga specifics, how to do this, how to do that. We started having discussions. We started having sessions. The sessions were the Hey, all right, it's coming back. All right, all right. I guess after 4 hours, it gets a little finicky. So I want you to be able to take all this information and apply it at such a high level that you feel completely confident. And that only comes from competence, not information. So I could just spill out all the information. I could read you the whole book. But until we start going through it and you're like, all right, man, I'm doing this. What is this? What's that? Why is it doing that? What's that chicken doing? Until we start actually having this discussion, it won't get to that next level. You won't have the confidence. It's the competency that leads to confidence, that leads to real action. And that's what we're doing in this course. And that's what we all should be doing in all of our education, our services. We should be trying to empower people and lead them, not just to understand, not just to comprehend, but to action too. And a lot of the questions were how to get people to act. How are we going to get people to take that next step? And so that's where it is. We do it, we model it, and then we teach and invite in a way that calls them to action too. All right, guys, this was fun. I hope that you found this valuable. Let me know how long I was dark there. And that way I can start checking and be on top of that from now on. I really appreciate you guys. This course is already been so much fun. Some of your comments have been really moving for me personally. I love teaching. I love getting feedback. So please keep going. If you haven't responded to the introduce yourself, please hop in and do so and get ready because this course is about to take off. We're about to go to a totally different level, okay? We're going to really dive deeper than any other course has ever gone into these areas. And so this is just the beginning. This is just scratching the surface. For some of you, this might be a review. For some of you, this might be brand new. But very soon, it's going to be new territory for everyone. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. And I will see you soon.